Hello everybody, it's Capcorgitv. We've had a very busy night playing Highguard for the very first time. I played several different rounds. Honestly, I think I played, all told, I would say about 4 hours of this game. Which probably amounts to, I think, I haven't counted really in my head, about 5 to 6 rounds of the game. And I have some thoughts. I have some first impressions, very complete ones. I wanted to tell you exactly what I think of the game. Is it worth it? Is it not? Well, frankly, it's free, so it's worth the price tag at least. I highly recommend, by the way, that you do not listen to a lot of the people out there that are either calling it, like, Concord 2, saying it's the worst game ever, but you also do not listen to anyone saying that this game is perfect, the next thing in, Apex's evolution. I've heard a lot of hyperbole being thrown around. Frankly, this game is very much somewhere in the middle. I would say, in fact, that it is a tale of two games. There are two very distinct aspects of the game, and I'll get into this in greater detail in just a moment. And one of them is quite a decent, set of bones in the game. And then there's the other aspect of the game, which feels very out of place and very much not a, I guess, like, something that feels rewarding in any way, shape, or form, nor does it feel necessary to the game. So it's a little bit of a complicated answer, but I think overall, it's a good start. I wish the game had more time to cook. There's definitely major issues with the game, but it's also not like, a jumbled mess that has, like, no recourse. It's not like Concord was. It's not Concord. So yeah, we're gonna get started. Basically, I'm going to show some gameplay in the background and talk about the different parts of the game that I liked and didn't like. First of all, by the way, the game is optimized like absolute dog. It is one of the worst optimized games I've played. Maybe is since Monster Hunter Wilds. I would say Wilds is worse, and that was made by Capcom. This is made by a much smaller company, obviously, and the game is shockingly unoptimized. I am playing on a 4070. The gameplay that you see was recorded just a couple hours ago, and thankfully there's not really much lag anymore. However, do keep in mind that the game is running at, like, medium quality. And it was using DLSS and everything. It took me, just to let you guys know, 20 minutes to get into my first game, the tutorial version of the game. And I did disconnect from it because the game is just that heavily unoptimized. I was having freezes, RAM and CPU usage was off the charts, all kinds of craziness, which are, very strong signs that the game really needed a lot more time to cook. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, this game is, as far as I know, Unreal Engine 5. Maybe it's Unreal Engine 4. I think it's Unreal Engine 5. And as a result, these types of games need a lot of heavy optimization. We have heard of, many tales of countless Unreal Engine 5 games just ending up to be, completely unoptimized pieces of slop. In many cases, until a very strong optimization pass is taken where they really iron out through these issues. It doesn't have to be that case, Expedition 33 is Unreal Engine 5, and that game is pretty well optimized. But there are a lot of games that are UE5, I would say, frankly, the majority, where the game is not given enough time to cook. And as a result, the game runs like a complete ass and, has many issues with anyone with a normal rig, even trying to play it. Heck, I saw, some big streamers, after I was streaming tonight, I did watch some other larger streamers being like, am I the only one with these problems or whatever? No, a lot of people's first time play, when they were getting into the game for the first time, the shaders were compiling and all that, it took a long time for it to work. And then they had to turn everything down, and, obviously the game quality goes down, but, performance goes up. And a lot of times it feels like, what is going on here? And, yeah, I basically, I think that this game needed a lot more time to cook, graphics-wise, in terms of optimization specifically. Beyond that, As you can tell, you know, we have the gameplay going. I'm going to rewind a little bit because one thing I wanted to talk about was there's a couple of different phases in the game. There's the gear up phase, which is what's going on right now. Then there's the shield breaker phase, where there's this cool looking sword. It's like a lightning sword on the ground. And frankly, they should have made it a really cool item to use, like a weapon or something. But no, it's a one-time use item. And basically, it's like you capture the point, you capture the item, and you have to take it to the enemy's base, if you are the one, or you have to defend your base from that sword being brought by the enemy to your base. And then one team or the other will either kill the team with the sword, bring the sword to the other person's base, and crack it, or the people that have the sword first will crack your base. That is the second phase. Then the third phase is the actual attack or defense of the base. So those are the three main phases of the game. Here is the problem. This is where you can take those three phases and cut it in half. The gear up phase, which is what's going on right now, as you can tell, the maps are very large. I'm running for a very long time. I'm barely doing anything of use. You know, I'm going around to these, like, big blue stones, you know, hitting them with my axe to farm them up. That's a currency in this game. You can see it in the bottom left corner. 9, 9, and 8, that means those are the amount of blue stones we essentially farmed. And it's this, like, really stupid, like, you know, timing little mini game that you have to do. And it's incredibly frustrating to do. It's not even difficult, it's just annoying. And this entire gear up phase takes literally 2 minutes. It's a considerable amount of time. 2 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider that this can happen multiple times in a game, and B, it can also be something that happens during the game, and C, it happens every game, it kind of adds up a lot. So you have that entire farming phase, and you have this shield breaker forming phase. That's another minute. That is where the sword has not yet formed. You have to go to the sword. It marks it on the map where the sword is, and it kind of gives you an indicator. Right here, you can see it, forming shield breaker. And it kind of tells you 22 seconds until the shield breaker forms. You all want to gather up there and fight the other team. Only when the shield breaker is close to being formed, like right now, 22 seconds until it does, or whatever. This is usually the first time that you ever find an enemy. Everything up to this point, up to the point that the shield breaker is formed and you're trying to find the enemy and fight the enemy and then take the sword, everything up to this point is absolutely fucking useless. It is an abject waste of time. Sure, you get some little blue weapons and gear and this and that, but you could take all of that, consider it fat, and cut it out. And, you know, make it much more of a game like Valorant or something like that, where, you know, you buy the items, you have a certain amount of currency or whatever, and you just go to the points and you do everything that, beyond that. Now, everything after this point, you've made contact with the enemy, you're fighting the enemy, one of the teams picks up the sword, then all the fighting breaks loose and everything like that. Everything after that point, consider a separate game. That is where the actual gameplay is. That's when you're actually shooting your gun. That is when you're actually meeting the enemy. That is when you're using your abilities. That is when you're tactically thinking. That is when you're using height. That is when you're swapping your weapons from the Vanguard, which is an assault rifle. Even the guns sound and feel very similar to Valorant, which is why I'm making the comparison to Valorant. And CSGO is very similar in that way as well. This is where you're doing all of these things. You're protecting your base. You're using height advantage. You're throwing grenades. All of the cool, fun stuff happens after that first point of contact with the enemy. That part, this is the part of the game that you can see the gameplay of, where it actually feels good. The gunplay feels quite good. I'm very bad at looking up sometimes, so I got shot in the face there. But, like, that wasn't a fault of the game. That was, my own fault. The actual gameplay here, characters using abilities and so on and so forth, feels very, very good. I will say that the respawning feels very, very unintuitive. So in order to respawn, and when you're during, an action phase, essentially, you can see that you are trying to, you have to you have to pick the point that you respawn, and certain different phases have different ways of respawning. And it's a lot of times very, very easy to double click or not click the right point, and then you're just waiting in the respawn page for like an extra 20 seconds, being like, why can't I, what the hell is going on? Why can't I respawn? It is, this part of respawning is very, very unintuitive. And also, like, there's a little buying phase and everything while you're respawning. But the items are limited, so you can't even, like, say that you're getting pressed a lot. You don't have a shotgun. You don't have any, like, particularly good weapons for someone, pushing on you. You want a shotgun. You want a submachine gun. You want something with versatility. You want something with, like, quick ADS speed, quick, movement speed, and so on and so forth. And your choices in the in-game store are, this rifle, which is like kind of like you could consider like a BR. The Longhorn, which is a revolver, much more of a long-range thing, and the burst submachine gun. This is like the best out of the three for close range, but it's still not that good. There's no shotguns or anything like that. You really are just shit out of luck. And there is no way to really change your weapon at this point unless you get really lucky with, a loot box spawn, but there's none in the base. Like, if someone went outside or something. I don't know. I don't think there is a way to change your weapon type at this point anyways. It is extremely, extremely unfortunate because that takes out a lot of the nuance of the game. A lot of the tactical thinking. Okay, I'm being pushed a lot. Everyone is diving. I want to go shotgun here. Or they're sniping me like crazy. I have double shotgun for close range. I can't do shit because they're standing on top of the big tower thing and I can't really reach them with any of my bullets. Because spread is a very, very extremely potent issue in this game compared to pretty much every other game. Like, shotguns, you can use it at mid-range relatively okay in a lot of games. This game, if you're anything beyond, like, I would guess, like, 10 meters compared to many other games, your shotgun isn't going to hit shit. And if it does, it's going to do, like, 7 damage. The damage fall off on shotgun is in-fucking-sane. Close range is great, but, like, long range, I mean, granted, that is a shotgun thing, but it feels a lot more dichotomous than many other shotguns in many, many other games. Now, beyond that, so the abilities, the hero abilities seem very good. I think some of them are definitely stronger than others. There's definitely a lot of coordination needed for some of them, and certain characters are much better for solo. There's some characters that just kind of feel a little useless, but generally pretty okay. There's 8 different characters in the game. So I think overall the game has a lot of good bones. And this is, like, by the way, what you guys just saw was an entire round. But 7 minutes long, we got rolled. This was a match where we got absolutely shit on. And it was a pretty fast run, so, you didn't have to see multiple phases or anything like that. That is totally fine. That is totally fine. But I think this one was a lot longer of a round, so you might see a lot more going on here. In fact, I'll go to the beginning of the round so you guys can see from the very, very beginning the entire thing. So you'll see, we're picking the map, we're picking the character, we pick the map afterwards. All the different maps, they don't really seem that cool. You don't really spend a lot of time in it. And there's a lot of, like, weird things that are just extraneous in here. I think this game is frankly trying to do too much. So if you see here, you'll see me go up to some of the walls and, like, reinforce them. Now, this little thingy. So I turned, like, this, normal wood into this, like, iron panels over the wood kind of thing. That is the act of reinforcing. Reinforcing is brought down by, a lot of things. Explosions, grenades bring it down, certain abilities bring it down really, really fast. And frankly, at some point, it just kind of feels like it's not worth it. I think having an entire minute to secure the base, we're always, just spamming E on whatever closest, points are to us. Because, people are just, you don't even know where someone's going to go. You don't know if they're going to go to the right, left side. You can't, reinforce everything. So you just kind of just pick and choose random walls to reinforce. Maybe there's going to be some meta about it later on if this game survives long enough. I have no clue. By the way, this is the phase where you can buy you can actually choose your loadout. but you don't know which upgrades you're going to find later on. So whatever you get here is only your starting loadout. If you find a loot box, say you are a character that is there's a stealth character, and you're like, okay, I want the ranger, which is the sniper, and I want the the Kraken, which is a very short range big boom, and you have to hit that shot, very slow reload time, so on and so forth. Makes sense. So you can stealth to get into position for the perfect shot, either behind someone for the perfect shotgun shot or far away for the perfect ranger shot. Pretty good way. This is how I won a couple of matches tonight, and it felt pretty good to do that. However, say you're going these two items, these two weapons, and then you run into a loot box with a blue version of the Vanguard. This doesn't really fit into your build at all in terms of how you want to play your character, but now, because the Vanguard is a blue weapon, it has so many more, like, attachments, sometimes more ammo capacity, reload speed, things that actually make a big difference in the game. You have to choose to go the Vanguard. You have no way of really getting a Blue Ranger or a Blue Kraken except for RNG. Definitely does not feel good for that to happen. I think having weapon rarities in general, armor rarities as well and stuff, is just really not needed. It's not needed. It's not really useful. And I think, like, a game like CSGO and Valorant, they don't really have any real big, thing with that. Every gun is a distinct type. Every gun has positives and negatives. And beyond that, you pick and choose. I really do prefer that method, because if you have that method, you could completely get rid of, most of the time when you're reinforcing your weapon and choosing your loadout, all you do is choose your loadout, because reinforcing the base doesn't frankly do dog shit anyways. And it kind of feels like a gimmick. The gear up time would be completely negated. You don't have that 2-minute period anymore where you're running around collecting this stupid fucking blue stones, desperately searching for loot box and relying on RNG to be able to carry you through fights. Because, if I'm running into a fight with a white Viper, which is, small SMG, and a white Paladin, which is the small shotgun that's an auto shotgun, multi-shot auto shotgun, then I have, zero recourse if someone has, like, got really lucky from a drop and got, like, a blue or a purple Vanguard assault rifle and is shooting me from mid-range. There's nothing I can do. It just feels bad, man, whenever that kind of thing happens, because of the quality of their gun being much stronger. They have just way more ammo capacity, reload speed, this, that, whatever. And on one level, that's fine, but I just don't think that is really needed for the game, because the game's gunplay is snappy enough. You don't have to rely on gimmicks. The abilities for this character, for example, I'm the flame guy here. He has a face like Nathan Fillion, and his Q, he shoots like a wave of fire. And his ultimate is just like a big zone control. You make like a cloud in the sky that shoots fire bolts down the ground. And it's like a whole bunch of them, and it lasts for a significant amount of time. I think it lasts for like 30 seconds or something. And it's a very large area, and does good damage. And then your passive is when you throw a grenade, it makes it a fireball that, stays on the ground for a very long time, kind of like a fire bomb. So the abilities for every single character feels potent and useful enough in so many different situations. You don't really need the weapon quality gimmick. You don't really need the armor quality gimmick. And as a result, you don't need the gear up phase or anything at all. And you don't need these maps to be so freaking huge. You don't even get the chance to use range 90% of the time. Either you get really lucky and people are running into your sniper spot all the time, or you don't even use a sniper until the very last assault phase, when you're like, perched up on a building, trying to get a good angle on someone like going through your base or whatever like that. And also, like, the blast hammer, rocket launcher, people barely use these in my games. I've used it a couple of times. It didn't even feel that good to use. People really did not use these like special weapon items much. They could put far more detail and far more nuance into making these cool, and like take out all these other quality bullshits and everything like that out of the game. And I think the game would be much snappier and much more friendly for a casual audience, and for, people looking for hype moments and stuff. You're spending half your time playing this game either loading in the game or running to the other team without actually fighting or hitting these fucking blocks. Dude, that little block minigame with the timing is so useless and annoying. And as you can see, entire gear up phase has happened. We are now 5 minutes in the game, and I still have not run into a single enemy. You're going to see I don't run into a single enemy until the shield breaker, sword thing has already formed and we're, in the middle of a fight for it. That is the only time that action actually starts in the game. And I played, like I said, 6-7 games. I'm not doing the meme, but actually like around 6 or 7. I don't remember how many. And it is, the action that happens after that point is great. There are parts of this game that are very good. There's just so much random shit in this because they're trying to add every single gimmick from every single, shooting game out there that they're not really doing a great job on any one thing. They could have focused far more and spent more time on, this was me trying to use the rocket launcher, by the way. This is how useless the rocket launcher is. Did barely anything. Like, it actually did way more damage to me and my teammate than it did to the enemy. Absolutely useless. Absolutely useless to even bother going with the rocket launcher in any way, shape, or form. Or the hammer or anything like that. But yeah, there's, like I said, tale of two games. Bones of a good game in here. And also, they did the same thing that, a lot of people accuse Marathon of doing, rightly so, where, you had a game like Marathon, which was an extraction game, and during the first alpha, which I played heavily, and a lot of people did, there was no VoIP. And they said, oh, we're not having VoIP because it can be toxic. There's no VoIP in this game, and I think it's for the very, very similar reason. They didn't say so, but it just feels very, what's it called? Lackluster and very sterile. Where, I think they didn't put VoIP in this game because they probably thought the same. Oh, well, you don't know if someone's going to be toxic. No one cares about that. No one who plays these games actually cares about VoIP being toxic. The games are made to be played with people. They're made to be discussed with people. And if you have to lose, parts of the game because you're not willing to police the game and actually do things like have a proper reporting system and stuff like that, then what the fuck is the point of the game? To that end, you cannot even type to the other team. There is no all chat. You can't even type to your team. I didn't see, I tried to press enter and things like that. I at least didn't see a way to type to even your team at all. All you can do is either use, the in-game, team VoIP. Team, it's not even VoIP, sorry. VoIP is, area. In-game team, mic usage. Or you use pings, and that's it. There's no other way to communicate or not communicate with your team. There's no way to, type. There's no way to, put, little emotes or whatever like that, like you have in, Arc Raiders or Marvel Rivals. There's none of those functionalities in the game. And I feel like those types of things that you find in so many shooters and that are used very well in so many shooters would be much more of a boon here than it would be to have, 3 entire aspects of the game that no one fucking even likes. As in the reinforcing phase and the buying phase and the farming phase and the beginning of the shield breaker phase and so on, where you're not actually playing the game. You're not actually playing or doing anything useful in the entire game. But yeah, like I said, the gunplay is good, as you can tell. Like, the gunplay feels snappy, the aiming feels pretty good, and there are some weird choices, like mouse acceleration is locked. There's no way to turn mouse acceleration off. And, that threw me off a little bit. The game feels very controller-friendly. I tried a game with controller. It felt very much way more intuitive than it felt on keyboard and mouse. And they might have been making this game for controller players first. And then, PC as a secondary thing. But that doesn't really make any sense because so many games, like Apex itself, are so heavily played on PC. These devs are Apex devs, which is why I'm bringing up Apex. And so, yeah, it's a very dichotomous game. I would say exactly half of this game feels decent and worth playing. That is everything happening after the shield breaker part. And then the other half of this game feels completely superfluous, way too bloated. It feels like they're trying to do way too many things at the same time and not putting enough focus or detail onto any of the things that actually matter, as in playing the actual game, playing with your teammates, being able to communicate, and so on and so forth. Also, a lot of the maps are very weird. Like, I was trying to go down here to the, you know, the room where they planted the bomb, and I'm trying to disfuse the bomb. I have 36 seconds. I could not find a way down. Now, granted, you know, that's just a thing of you either know the map or you don't, but some of these maps and bases are way too unintuitive. And it kind of just feels like, what is going on with the design in this game? Some of the maps feel really good. Some of them feel very, very weird. And like, you know, there's an entire wall where it just feels like very windy to get around. It takes forever. And you're just like, this is a 3v3 game. If this would make more sense if you're playing League of Legends, which is 5v5. This would make more sense if you're playing Valorant, which is 5v5 or 6v6. Either way, it's a lot more people. You know, a map that is a very big map, like, you know, the Dam and Arc Raiders, it feels fine to play because there's 20 people on the map or something at the very beginning of the game. There's plenty of action to find. Sometimes on some maps, there's way too much action to find. Stella Montes comes to mind. But, you know, and that's like, you know, just a balance issue at that point. But like, in terms of empty period, by the way, this was me trying to respawn, and then like, you know, then it locks me out, and I'm just sitting there like, what? Why the fuck can I respawn? It's just some weird decisions in this game that make no sense whatsoever, and you're like, why did they choose to do this? Part of this game is really good, and the other part makes no fucking sense. So yeah, that's what I would say this game is. Very dichotomous. If you're grading the game as a whole, you just want, or I just want to grade this game as it should have cooked for another month, maybe 2 months. A, iron out the optimization. B, really focus on like the parts of the game that should be focused on, the gunplay and the abilities, and you know, the third item here that no one uses, whether it's the shotgun or the mines or whatever, or and the zip lines, or you know, then you have to either do it like as a whole, or you have to talk about it in the halves, and then you either just don't have one half, and then you have the gunplay half, which is actually the good half. So yeah, that's basically my entire talk. That is basically my entire feelings on this game. I do not think it's Concord 2. Concord had no real good, you know, thought processes behind it, in my opinion. The gunplay was lackluster. The movement was lackluster. Half the characters were massively overweight, and they moved like it as well, which was the big problem. Every character in this game has the same movement speed, so it's pretty universal in that way. You don't feel pretty screwed over if you play one character over another for that reason. There's, you know, the character models are pretty good, except for sometimes it'll be, like, randomly extremely low resolution. For no fucking reason, by the way. There's a lot of, like I would say, like, half decisions made. And, yeah. So, I think if they focused way less on having, like, every aspect of Rainbow Six Siege, you know, bunches of aspects of Fortnite, and so on and so forth, and they just stuck to, you know, taking aspects out of Apex, taking aspects out of, you know, Valorant slash CSGO, which are the more exciting parts of the game anyways, and, you know, really refined the abilities, added more heroes and stuff, that would have been a way better call. Having 8 characters at launch makes you feel like, you know, the roster is very thin. There are many archetypes in the game that are just not even... Sorry, there are many archetypes in many games that aren't even remotely represented here. You have, you know, the sniper. You don't have any sort of, like, really tank character. You have, you know, a character that can make walls. You have a character that can stealth. And you have a character that can, like, leap. And the Feral Leap is not even that good. It's used mostly to, you know, break down walls as opposed to use it to actually kill characters. Which is weird because the trailer showed it killing a bad guy, like an enemy. But, you know, you don't really even use it for that in this game because it's, you know, so unintuitive to aim. It's a lot of weird decisions. And this minigame right here. It looks easy to do. And then you get a perfect, and then you're able to one-tap the next mining node because you were able to do the first one perfectly on point. And it just feels like if they didn't have this mini game at all, the game would be better. But yeah, I would say if I'm grading this game as a whole, I would give it a solid 6 out of 10, whereas Concord would be like a 2. Like genuinely a 2. People calling it Concord 2, I don't think so, because I gave Concord a literal 2. It gave me an existential crisis for how bad the AAA gaming scene is for an entire like 6-7 months. It was kind of brutal how long that it affected me mentally. I fucking hate Concord. This game is nowhere near as bad as Concord. Nowhere near. But if you take those two dichotomous parts out, the actual gunplay, the actual action parts of the game, I would say edges closer to like a 7.5, maybe even parts of it an 8 out of 10, especially when you're playing with a group. When you're playing with people that actually communicate, that actually use their mic to talk to you and stuff like that. The first game I had, both people were very friendly. They were very open. They were very yappy. They were very communicative. And the game felt great. Sadly, that was like the only match that had happened. But I will say that is when the game clicked. That very, very first match. And every other match where your team is not communicating or anything like that, everyone's going off doing their own shit. Half the time you're going in 1v3, not because you're wanting to go 1v3, it's because the other team stuck together, and you got unlucky with 2 fucking bastards on your team that didn't even bother listening to you desperately telling them in VoIP, hey, I see them over there. They're going to the shield breaker point. Why are you guys still farming? Come on, let's gather up. Let's play together. And they're just not fucking listening. And it's very much a tale of 2 very different types of games. This is a game that I feel like was made for like high pressure streamers and like pro players and like COD bros that want to get like the highlight reels a lot. And this game was not made for people that just want to play and learn a new shooter and have a good time. This is kind of like the opposite of Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders made very much for the people who want to have a good time, play relatively casually, and so on and so forth. And as a result of that, I think that if they stick with this and they don't really retool how long it takes to actually start fighting in the game and so on and so forth, this game will die. And I don't really want to see that because, like, I think this game deserves to, like, have a real shot because the important parts of the game, the shooting, the movement, the actual action of the game, so on and so forth, that's where the game is at its best. That's where it's, like, decent. You can use these cool abilities like the wall. You can throw grenades over top of it. I was popping out these little little dogs that warn of enemies and throw little concussion grenades to stun them and so on and so forth. So it's like a little bit of like a zone control character and stuff. This is where the game feels good. Like this is a pitched battle. We are fighting to stop the shield break or whatever for like a solid like 3 minutes. Using all of our different abilities, using angles, covering each other, destroying other people's revive points, reviving our own character, friends, and so on. And this is where the game is at its best. And if they hone in on this, there could be something really worth shining out of, like, the very large blue node of whatever material. I think Vesper is what they call it. Most of the Vesper on the node is like, just shit rock. And then like there's like 1 or 2 useful pieces of Vesper in it. That's what this game feels like. The 1 or 2 pieces of Vesper in it feel really good. The nugget of gold inside an entire vein. And then like the rest of it just feels like shit rock and useless and not even, feels good to get or anything like that. And that's pretty much exactly what this game is. So if you're willing to, first of all, if you play with your friends, you're going to have a lot more fun. Like, this is very much Arc Raiders. You can play solo or with your friends and have a lot of fun. Valorant, you could play solo and, get to know new people and, like, really utilize people's abilities and create synergies and so on and so forth and have a lot of fun solo. This game, soloing it was a mess. It wasn't a bad mess because, people are just learning it for the very first time. But communication is so extremely vital that you can't really get away with not having that in a game like this. There's no way to type in Valorant. It feels pretty okay to solo because even if you don't use VoIP or anything, you can still use pings, you can still use emotes, you can still use this, that. Same thing with Marvel Rivals. That's why those games you can solo so much better. This game you have none of those options. I think this game needs to go back to the drawing board a little bit on its prime design and hone in on the half of the game that is actually good, and completely eschew the absolute rest of the game that is absolutely useless dog shit. Like, this is a really cool fight because we spend the entire next 3 minutes having a desperate defense against the invaders on our base. This is where the game is good. This is where the game feels really fun to play. You're using angles. I don't really know this map, so I'm getting like completely demolished. But like, where if I, later on in the night where I, learned this map better and stuff, I was like able to use the angles much better. I was able to, figure out which walls you want to shoot through, which walls you want to keep up, which ones you want to have open so you can use it as a sniper point from across the map and so on and so forth. And, you were able to do it a lot better. It felt pretty good then. But there's not enough of this. There's not enough of the good stuff. There's way more of the useless aspects of the game which don't feel good to play, and it feels like it's a waste of time. And so I think that, if they hone in on this, they're the bones of a good game. Anyways, that's my entire discussion. What do you guys think of Highguard? What do you guys think of these first impressions? I think that, this game could have some usefulness put into it and some real bones and, I guess the flesh being put into the bones of the game and creating something that could be successful. I don't see a lot of people sticking with the game, mainly because of the performance and also because half the game is fucking boring. The half the game that I told you about, the farming and all that. That is a very, very sad thing. I don't think this game will get the chance to shine. I don't see a lot of people sticking with this game over Arc Raiders, over Marvel Rivals, over Overwatch 2, over Valorant. I don't see anyone sticking with this game over any of those games. Mainly because half the game is so fucking slow and feels so useless. And you're just like, dude, I would rather play 3 Valorant matches rather than play 1 match of this game. And it's sad because this game didn't have to be that dichotomous. I really do think that the developers of this game did not do themselves any favors by not talking about or sharing any information about the game after the Game Awards trailer. And also, they did not do themselves any favors by not having a beta. I feel like if they had any real feedback from anyone that is not a streamer, that is like, a COD bro or whatever, they would have figured out a lot of these issues really fucking fast. You have to remember, COD bros and things like that, the people that they brought in to play test their game, in the last 3 days, and they paid for the hotel and everything like that, those people are biased. So they want to say, oh yeah, your game is great. They're not going to give you the real call. Secondly, you're going to have an entire situation where they are playing a different game than any normal player who is a casual, who's like your literal, general audience. 90% of your players will not be like the extremely sweaty, over sweat, streamer type. And I think a lot of gamers, a lot of game makers are running into this problem. You see games like Deadlock and Valorant, what's it called? Even Marathon. They're doing a lot of betas, or some are in early access right now. Some of them had a very long early access period. Some of them, in Valorant's case, it's already a release game. It's not in early access or anything like that, but it's been developed and reiterated on for years on end. And as a result of that, the game feels pretty good to play. They take feedback, they incorporate feedback, they retool the parts of the game that don't work. Hopefully, sometimes they fuck it up, but, they're at least trying. And generally, the game gets better and better and better over time. That's how it should be. But then you have games like this, games like Concord, so on and so forth, where there is no beta period. and they don't listen to any feedback. They don't get the proper feedback. They don't listen to proper feedback. And as a result, you're like, I feel like this game is going to die at this point. Very, very, very unfortunate. Does not have to be this way. And I hope they, you know, I'm almost of the mind that they should take this game, put it back into like beta, and say, hey guys, thank you for joining our extended beta. I appreciate you guys giving your feedback. We're gonna retool the game, and they take out half the game. Like they just nix half the game. They focus on things I said that they should, and then they re-release the game. I think this game would end up being way more successful. Right now, I do not see this game living beyond a month, maybe even a couple of weeks. Like, a lot of people uninstalled the game in terms of like a day. That's not a good sign. That is not a good sign. Listening to streamers that are sweat lords is exactly why Splitgate died as well. So, you know, that's my thought. There's a lot of examples of ways that, you know, early access can work. There's a lot of ways that not listening to feedback can absolutely shoot yourself in the foot, and I think this could be one of those stories. I hope it's not. There are good parts of this game. There are the bones of the good game here, and I think that, like, the parts of the game that I enjoyed, I really enjoyed. And the parts of the game that I hated, I really fucking hated. So, that is my entire discussion. What do you guys think of my entire first impressions of this game? And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you tried Highguard? What do you guys think? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for your time, and let me know what you played. Let me know what you're playing in terms of a shooter, and if you have played Highguard, do you think this game brings anything to the table unique compared to those games? That is another problem with this game. There's no real identity here. If they honed in on the aspects that I said, then you would see the identity being like, this is like a base defense type of game. But, you know, it incorporates hero abilities and stuff. That would be the identity of this game. But this game is trying so much with the Fortnite aspects, with the farming aspects, and this and that. It just feels like a jumble. And I don't think that's a good thing. You don't want a game that tries to do everything, because then you do nothing really right. Those are my thoughts. I would love to hear yours. I hope I've been fair, and I would love to hear what you guys think as well. This game should change in order to improve. I think that would be a really cool way to end the discussion. Thank you so much, and catch you guys in the next video. If you did find this useful, give this video a like. Give this channel a sub. I'm always open. I'm always fair. I always talk about things fully in detail, and I'm never biased. I only want to have good games, and I really don't like bad games. That's it. That's my only bias, which I think is a fair one. Catch you guys in the next video.